I heard the rain this evening. The rainfall began at 5 o'clock, and it made me have visions of my wife. I saw my wife sleeping on her side. I saw her in a fetal position. I saw her in bed with her legs drawn in close to her chest and her knees curled against her stomach. She was bent in the shape of a ball that was cold, afraid, and vulnerable. A backdrop of darkness surrounded her. I saw the curve of her hips, the swell of her buttocks, and the interlocking lines of her feet and legs. The bottom of her bare feet faced me, while the outlines of her shoulder blades, like etched markings against smooth stone, defined the planes of her back. I liked this image of my wife, for I had always thought seeing her asleep on her side like this was seductive, sexy, and alluring. I'd teased her once about this, and she had in turn told me that I was an immoral and shameless man. Are you okay, Suzanne? When I heard the rain this evening, I thought back to the time when I proposed to my wife. I'd proposed to her in Paris, France, and on that day, the rain had been warm and kind, filled with a blissful fragrance. I proposed to her beneath the Eiffel Tower. I proposed to her down on one knee with my heart pounding deep in my chest, my mouth dry, the hairs on the back of my neck stiffened to quills. My hands had trembled as I brought out the wedding ring. When I looked at her, my voice had croaked, and I'd whispered, "Will you marry me?" The rain on her face that day had been sweet enough to kiss. Suzanne, are you okay? The rain tonight was heavy and strong. The roof shook, the windows rattled. There was all around me a pizzicato bombardment of raindrops that splashed against the leaves and produced a loud, hissing, acidic noise, a sound similar to shoes kicking through gravel. The sound reminded me of when I made love to my wife the day after I proposed to her. We had been in our hotel room. We had been in bed together. She had lain beneath me while I had lain on top of her. Our bodies that morning had been cold but comfortable, prickled with goose flesh, smothered against silk and cotton, skin and hair, rounded textures and smooth, hidden crevices. I remember on that day, while making love to my wife, my fiancée, my partner, my lover, how her gasps had mimicked the springtime rain that was outside our hotel room, at once fast and impatient, other times slow and purring, but always in the end gushing and overflowing. Talk to me, Suzanne. Why won't you talk to me? When the rain fell that evening, I looked up from my laptop to stare at the windows. I saw a world outside that was gray and somber. Torrents of rushing water flooded the streets. Blackened clouds filled the skies. Deep sounds of thunder bellowed in the distance. Just outside, beyond the rain-studded windows, was the sharp, eerie, and queer noise of a swaying wind chime. Hearing the wind chime made me realize the cold emptiness of the house. I heard the kitchen faucet dripping water into the sink, the non-stop tick of the living room clock, the cranky metal moan of the stirring radiator, and the old, begrudged yawns of the hallway walls. My laptop hummed beneath my fingers while the rain outside continued to consume all earthly sounds. Talk to me, Suzanne. Please, just talk to me. I heard the rain outside and recalled the moment when I received the news. I'd been at work then. It had also rained that day. I'd been glancing at the windows, wondering when the rain would end, when my boss suddenly came to alert me about the news. The hospital had called. They told me it was urgent. I immediately picked up the phone, called the hospital back, and was shocked to hear a nurse on the other line. Her words had been terrible. Your wife had a miscarriage. Please, Suzanne, please talk to me. It's not your fault. I heard the rain outside and remembered how I found my wife weeping in the bathroom. She had been on her side. She had been in a fetal position. She had drawn her legs in close to her chest and had her knees curled against her stomach. She had been bent in the shape of a ball that was cold, afraid, and vulnerable. She had been naked. Blood had smeared the bathroom tiles. The blood had come from her wrists and had run down her arms in long, sinuous lines. I hate this image of my wife. I hate it, for I always remember seeing the blood on her arms and hands. The bathroom sink stained with red. Her bare feet kicking and shoving me away as I rushed to help her. I told her to stop it. She had in turn told me that I was a useless, pathetic man, and that she was sorry. So sorry. Please talk to me, Suzanne. I love you. I got up from my chair. I went upstairs. The rain continued above me, and I heard it bombard the roof in unrelenting cannonades. The rain reminded me of a hysterical woman screaming. It reminded me of sharp hisses and snarls, of blood-curdling shrieks, of shattering dishes in the kitchen, and of harsh, sudden slaps to the face that cut open a cheek. It reminded me of my wife, pulling out her hair, of her threatening to cut her wrists, and of her sobbing out loud our dead son's name over and over again. Joseph. My wife had wanted to name our son Joseph. It was the same as her father's name. Suzanne. I went upstairs and opened the bedroom door. I thought I'd heard a noise from inside. When I opened the door, I saw nothing other than a backdrop of surrounding darkness. The bed was empty. An imprint of my body was there on the bed, but it was in the shape of a man who slept on his back. I looked to the side and saw the bathroom door opened. When I saw the tiles inside the bathroom, I saw that there was nothing. Don't go, Suzanne. Please, don't go. I sighed. I glanced at the bedroom windows and saw a gray, distilled light splash onto the floor. This sight, along with the sound of never-ending rain, reminded me of the time I proposed to my wife. I was reminded how I made love to her the next day, how I held and kissed her, suckled her breasts, held her tight, carried her in her wedding dress, and took her on our honeymoon. And how, just a few years later on a similar rainy day, I had lost her, again to the sounds of rain, and had never recovered her since. I love you, Suzanne. I waited for the silence to answer. Like always, there was nothing. I turned away and let the rain fall.